All right, let's get this going here. Oh, we're back. We don't want to start that early. Let's start it here. All right, this is my case. This is the day I found out about the ad in the newspaper. This is the building. This is the newspaper. This is me. Basically in that order. There was a building. They put an ad in the paper. I saw it. It was this. I filled out an application. Gets into more detail actually what the write out is inside of here in case you didn't want to squint. There is no information about the pay, when the deadlines are, anything. Pay transparency was just me kicking in, and judge, you can order the objection or sustain it if you wish. You'll tell me what I can and can't do as far as working with my lawyer, or if I were to ever go pro per. I mean, I really don't know. This isn't my profession, right? So I'm going to throw everything I can at it, just in general. Not that I'm feeling I'm going to do this for any reason. These should be simple facts of me walking through the process of what the area is and what had happened. And so on that day, going into this, I found out on the 13th about not having an ad, the names or the ad in the paper no longer, and I wanted to look into it. This is my behavior. This is my candor. This is who I am. Find that they don't have complaint forms. Find that there's all kinds of holes and problems, if not negligence, with this process that have to be brought up at some meeting. The justice paradox, if you will. I'll let you read it on your own time. I'm just trying to process this through so I can show my case. Now, again, I live here, a quarter-mile away from this building, where I have a restraining order, where my first court date wound up being. Well, here's the day afterwards, the day I was protesting. I was protesting to this building. I was standing on this position, which is essentially this far apart, right? State building, town building, public works building, everything that's around here. And there's some private public worker guy site up there, does a lot of work for them. This was the sign. I hung this sign out there, and I was, Neil threatened to have me arrested for protesting outside. Now, Jerry did come out and talk to me at this point in time, but it was way past the point, and things that he said to me at that point in time, and I wish I would have recorded it at that. He first walked up, it seems like we're denial of entry. Yeah, it does. Where was the phone call? You made negligent mistakes. You tell me you're going to put it back in the newspaper before you even address my concerns as a civilian about what it is. And when I did ask you for a phone call, you never bothered to do it. I had already waited my 2 weeks for what was naturally a call about the application. And then to just keep dragging this back is obviously pushing fake jobs. And it's not to say that I haven't had problems with this town and village before, about them putting jobs in and then completely removing them from the ad and not hiring anybody. I had reasonable articulate suspicion on this matter. Here are the timelines about what would happen, and I do believe it gets into the officer showing up, Moros Toros, and he told me I was free to continue protesting. He told me if I wanted to get back out there and stand out here and protest, I was more than welcome to, and there should be office videos about that. As I walked in, after Neil had threatened to have me arrested, talking to Jerry on the phone, which I overheard. And again, the cop's POV is going to be there, right? When we were both standing out here talking to the officer, and I brought up the fact that Neil threatened to have me arrested from protesting on a First Amendment right here, that there will be very questionable mannerisms and behaviors in that moment. This goes more in detail about it, about who he tried to call first, and just basically the minutes, and then that may become relative to some certain circumstances once we can get this back and forth going. And again, I'm not going to be able to get these subpoenas. I'm not going to be able to subpoena their office cameras, inside or out. I'm obviously not skilled in the profession of being able to how to foyer police POVs at the time, because all those are relative. His case is reliant on him calling me prior to this. Again, this is still the same day. That night, Oh yeah, this is me looking into legal cases. You'll see them here. I was calling them. They were timestamped before I was arrested, before any posts or anything were going on, and I'd tried many other ones along with this. I was trying to get a contact back. Not all of them were going to represent my case in this time fraud, work fraud, denial of entry, whatever it would have wound up being, because honestly, I'm tired of it as a town person trying to jump through these hoops. I think this is the phone call. Yeah. And he said he had this recorded. I asked him in the middle of the conversation if he was recording this. So if it's questionable of whether you think I'm telling the truth or not, go ask him to give you the recording. On the 19th, 18th and 19th, this would be the day I was arrested in the morning after, or the day in the morning after. Yeah, and I was definitely irate. And if anything, this would be, from what my research is a verbal threat charge, if anything. And again, when we bring up the statements, anything that's going to be on my timeline, which we'll get to here in a second, about things that would piss somebody off by getting slapped right in the face and told to leave and don't look into it. You know, the justice paradox is obviously ridiculous here. What I did between the points of the cops showing up to my house without a warrant and the day I had to go get some eggs. I did a food bank thing. I got to drive past this thing every day. Yeah, yeah, this is the moment I got arrested and how I went. If candor has anything to do with it here, then let's see how I responded. Let's see if I believed in the system as far as what it does. And even though I'm standing here, I have no reason to care about the time involved here. We'll do this as long as it takes for me to really reference my freedom, my rights, and everything else that's relative here. Here are the statements. This is the exact statement. And I'll let you go through it. I'm sure you all do. But if that isn't an abuse of power, then I don't know what is. And if in a verbal assault case, that if the statement, one day you have it coming to you, is passive, then I don't understand why this isn't as well. Because I was certainly trying to be catty in that manner for what this is. They definitely have it coming to them at some point in time, and that would be the technical department or IT. And I was hoping it'd be me because I wouldn't mind doing the brickwork, learning how to do highway control technician from the part-time, working my way to full-time like that ad specifies. They took my property. They're trying to alienate me so I don't have a vote, so I look bad. They had personal kangaroo courts about me and ads. They said I threatened to shoot somebody, and I never did. I mean, they're bringing people into this that had no reason to be in here, and now I might have to sue the paper for libel as well. Absolutely ridiculous. They completely were trying to destroy my character. All right, so this is my first court date actually not my first court date. My first court date was canceled in town for what this is. At that building, the Hancock Court, I was supposed to meet Judge Buckley, I think is what it was, or O'Brien, and they said my case was canceled or changed because of a conflict of interest. All right, fair enough. It's at this building, but I still don't understand why that judge had nothing to do with this. The building in itself did, but why wouldn't justice been conducted? Why would I have to be outsourced to people that aren't my peers and aren't in my population to then be weighed and judged upon inside of this situation? The second court date that I had, this being the first one, the second one here was to come up in, oh no, that was the first one. December 4th court date? Yeah, this is the one up in Walton, I do believe. My first setup there. I sat in there for 2 hours. My lawyer didn't show up. And I tried to call my lawyer at past to talk about my case, to at least go over the details of somebody take my sworn statement, somebody take my testimony, because nobody has yet. I went to jail. I sat in the holding cell. I never saw my lawyer. I went right to the judge. The lawyer was there. And by that point in time, I had a restraining order against me. And an OP restraining order, not only to stay away from these people, which I had no reason to go back to that office at that point in time because I was already starting to do a legal case with them, trying to look around and do things. And then I can't go to these meetings, which I have tried in the past. They either didn't show up, or I just didn't go because there was no reason for me to go. Realistically, I didn't look into the matter. But more, when I had problems with the past, there are days that they didn't even show up to those meetings. And I'll be happy, hey, somebody's got to subpoena that record of where your leisure was, of who signed into those meetings, then where are they at the minutes? And why aren't they videotaped? These are public records. That you're doing that for these things, and you'd have to ask the dumb question. You want there to be weird numbers inside of there that should have never have been there about why you present that to the public. Because then we could have known the job, the details, the timelines, the systems. The second ad, they straight up had a snuff film about me in terms of a meeting. Now, I can't say that it wasn't relative, but we're still in the applied model that I was a terrorist in this standpoint, and therefore they had to have a meeting about it before I ever had trial or court. This is their minutes. I'm a little concerned about this being out of date, but maybe it's a glitch. Here is the exact ad talking about hiring 3 personnel because of retirement inside the system. And there are a few other things that you may want to take note in terms of what these minutes represent and where they are with the maximum tax increase anyways. Because it brings back into question whether this was ever going to be a real job or not, given the problems I've had with them in the past. This is another variance of it. They're subtly different. They were just subtly worded different from one another, and they have the same date. Questions, not really sure, but this is the scrape. This is just a village meeting, just in case I wanted to throw it in there. They do have them in the same building. Technically, the address of where they have the meetings is this building. So I wanted to kick it in here, them talking about stray cat policies at the time of this job or other meetings going on. Now, maybe it's satire, maybe not. I think it's fair, at least we bring it up here, and whether the jury is to hear it or the judge bars it, who knows. I'm bringing it in here. Brady. Yeah, I was the last. How can I have a public trial if I'm the last person in there? And you're going to let a DUI or something go in front of me? I hate to break down triage, but I think that's a little questionable about the methodology there. And again, there's court videos. It may not be the sum of all things, but it may be if the right lawyer or standpoint gets into it. These are exact. If the Brady here got something to say to me about what the exact post was, well, then let's go through it. Let's deal with the scope of the timeline. Let's deal with the phone call when it came in after it all, and why I had every right to be irate about the subject, and he had no right to spy on me. I certainly wasn't communicating with other civilians, and I was just grieving my problems to the wind because there usually is no resolve with situations like this. So I don't understand the problem. This is actually supposed to be cut right to my timeline, but I didn't because I didn't want this page to have access to my timeline. Kind of a thing when I posted it. This happened after my court. I called the Walton lawyer, and I got hung up on. She never called me back, and I'm not trying to push the issue to be a problem with the public attorney's office, because again, this is not my forte. This is not my realm. I didn't study bar when it comes to that variance of law. I went to physics, AB, and chemistry. So we got some denial of entries. These are the principles that I'm saying have happened. And when these things are left undone, that you get all kinds of problems about the JSA on a safety highway standard for what it is or what the main job is. You get all kinds of problems when we go to compare arrays in this system of whether this process will be complete or if there was friction and other models inside. What it'll amount to in the end, and what I was trying to serve by going to those meetings and offering it in a fair manner by those standards, because I've had these standpoints for quite a while about complaint forms and HTML pages and the way to program a button and the way to do things. So it really brings into the question, what exactly was going on here and what exactly will be the models of it. What are we trying to do? What were they so worried about as far as the standards? And why it may reflect badly on them if they don't win their case because I win mine. Here's your timeline. This is some realities of the world that are just need to be understood.